These days come few and far in between in modern day cricket, but whenever they come, there is a sense of excitement like no other. India versus Pakistan is where our attention lies on Qatar Airways presents ESPN Cricket Info T20 timeout. We've got just about 25 minutes to build up to what is considered to be the mother of all clashes, etc., etc. You can build it up as you'd like. Some of you might have watched it. Few of us have even played in it. One of those is here. He's got great memories, does he, of having to doff his cap when India and Pakistan played a T20 for the first time. And now I'll give you a debut in our studios. Uthappa.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. And I'm looking forward to this, this experience.
I can tell you something. Just before we've gone live, we've seen the toss. The minute India won it, the first person to go in excitement was not Gaurav Sundararaman or myself, it was Robbie. So the heart still bleeds blue even though the shirt is green today.
Yeah, so, I don't know why I picked a green shirt, by the way.
Of all the days.
Yeah. No, but heart always bleeds blue. And I think it was an important toss to win.
Yes.
Given the conditions there in Dubai, and given the time of the year, it's September, so you know that dew is going to play a factor, and it gets very dewy there post 7 in the evening. And you can see the guys there, when you saw the toss, you could see the boys were perspiring.
Yeah. They all wanted a few seconds. Now Rohit Sharma said, it's not a big deal, the toss. But we made such a big deal out of this 10 months back. India lost their tosses to Pakistan and New Zealand. It ended with a disappointing World Cup exit. So these tosses, whatever the captains may say, are important, aren't they, GS?
Very important. And we saw Australia when they won the World Cup. They won almost all the tosses. The only toss they lost the match. So that's how it is. The last 10 games, 9 games have been won by the team chasing. So I think it's a straightforward thing in the UAE, especially in the first half. And there's no first half here. The first half of this is the full tournament. So I think it's going to be very, very important toss. And I think India starting ahead.
So you see why we have him here, right? Whatever the cricketers say, to actually read in between the lines.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, as a captain, you have to take the most idealistic position, right? You don't want to be
proper. Say the proper.
Yeah, you have to say the right things, and why not?
Yeah.
But I'm sure he knows that, and everyone out there, like literally 5 out of 6, 11 guys playing there are captains in an IPL format. So everyone knows how important the toss is going to be for them.
Absolutely. We were just joking that maybe Rohit would have won the toss and said, we'll bat first, just to mess with everybody. But nah, he's done what cricketing wisdom, what statistical wisdom and conditions in the UAE have dictated. So Pakistan will be batting first in a change of fortunes from what happened in that big World Cup game 10 months ago. But let's not think that there's no Pakistan point of view here. After being captain and prime minister, perhaps the third most difficult position has been of Pakistan head coach. So let's get somebody who's sat in that chair. It's a very warm welcome on his first live show to John Michael Arthur. When's the last time someone called you that, Mickey?
A hell of a long time ago. I think when they called me that, I was genuinely in trouble.
All right, you're going to help us understand things from a Pakistan perspective. You also follow a lot of cricket. Forget a lot. Mickey Arthur watches everything. So let me put that disclaimer out and let me just try and continue that conversation. These tosses big in the UAE and it's gone India's way this time, Mickey. Is that tilt the scales even further towards India? Assuming you were thinking that India might be favourites.
Yeah, I do. I think the toss this time of the year is very, very important in the UAE. There will be a lot of dew. The dew will come down a little bit later. It'll be tough. It'll be tough to bowl second, so it's advantage India at the moment. But you know what? As they always say, the toss only starts the game. You've got to play well. So you've still got to make sure that your skills on the day are up to speed.
All right. Now we will get into the one question that has perhaps been spoken of, discussed to death ever since India picked their Asia Cup squad. It was the first time, in case you've missed the Zimbabwe series and the cricket before that in the West Indies. Let's get you up to speed. After very long, or for the first time, we've had Rohit, Rahul, Virat Kohli, Surya Kumar Yadav, Hardik Pandya, Rishabh Pant, Dinesh Karthik, all available. Now, not all of them can play. And therefore, India had a big call to make. As we broke it down for you on ESPN Cricket Info, it would virtually come down to one of DK or Rishabh Pant. And Rohit Sharma said at the toss to Sanjay Manjrekar, let me make it easy for you. We had one selection call to make and we've gone with Dinesh Karthik. We'll come to the bowling in a bit as well. India have had to manage without the likes of Jasprit Bumrah and Harshal Patel for this tournament. But let's see what the selection of Dinesh Karthik means for both Mickey Arthur, Robin Uthappa as well as GS. That's 6 right-handers on the left of screen. And before anything else, tell me, what do you make of that decision?
I thought it was a no-brainer, honestly.
Wow.
For me, I think in a tournament like in a tournament like the Asia Cup and the World Cup, you want to go with the best possible players that are there and the ones who are in the best form, right? And let's call it as it is. Rishabh Pant is a Test great. Is going to be a Test great, right? There's no denying that. But he hasn't really gone out there and blasted it off in T20 cricket like we expected him to, right? Like he was always punted to, right? But DK in the recent past has been in exceptional form. He's proved his worth of salt more than a few times, and he's earned that spot there. So he is clearly the best finisher in the country at the moment. And for me, in a tournament like this, you want to use the best finisher in the country. You don't want to leave him on the bench. You want to make him play. And it doesn't matter if you don't have a left-hander in the mix. It does not matter. When it comes to the death overs, you want to have your best finisher there. And for me, in India right now, Dinesh Karthik is the best finisher.
Fantastic. So I'm going to just start with the point you made at the beginning, because we still have the impression, a lot of us who are fans of Pant, and I'm sure everybody is, that he's got this ability to change the game. But are you saying the perception is somewhat clouded because we tend to look at the ability in Test cricket?
Yeah.
And think it'll happen in 2020 cricket, but it has not happened to the
as
amount
much as we all love Rishabh and we want him to succeed, and we know that he's going to be a great and probably going to captain India in the future as well. Possibly is the blue-eyed boy of the country at the moment.
Sure. Quite a few of those though these days.
We do, I agree. But I just really think that as far as T20 cricket's concerned, he really has to still, really throw a little light on what he can actually do and actually win some games single-handedly that he's done actually in Test cricket, And for him, his Test records right now, 33 Test matches, he's got 500s, and don't forget he's got 5 90s. So those 5 90s or 100s, he'd have 10 hundreds in 33 Test matches. So he's a Test great in the making. Okay, let's not deny that.
There are quite a few of us who think with his achievements, he's already a Test great as far as India keepers go.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but here in this format, he's struggled quite a bit to make that same kind of impression. We love him too, and I think in time he'll get the opportunity to as well, because DK is not going to be around forever.
Sure.
He's in the back end of his career, so I'm sure he'd want to finish off on a high as well, and he's deserved that spot. So for me, it's DK.
All right. We spoke to Chedeshwar Pujara last evening, who said knowing the Indian team management, they'll go with Pant. So is this a surprise?
I'm actually glad they took a bold call. It's very important to do that, especially with the World Cup coming up. Now you have a set team. You've kind of decided the role. The role definition is very important, I believe, in T20 cricket. And now it motivates Pant to kind of do that innings what Robbie is talking about, to have that impactful innings sometime in the next few games if he gets a chance. And Rohit did say in the press conference yesterday that they are looking still to experiment a little bit. So let's not maybe jump. Today it's Rishabh Pant who's sitting out. Maybe the next game they'll give somebody else a chance. So, but for now it's a bold call and a great call.
Okay, and you also have to recognize that all the build-up has been for these tournaments, right? So this is where you want to play your best 11.
Yes.
Like you don't want to muck around at this point in time. You want to actually, you've worked out who your players are over the last 12 months.
Sure.
And they've done really well in IPL as well, and all these guys have done really well. And you've all worked. It's all culminating here and in the World Cup. So you want to play your best 11s here. And I'm sure during the course of this tournament, there's going to be a little bit of change-ups. There's going to be a little bit of experimentation to figure that final 11 that can just play through and through till the end of the T20.
I like that you bring up the IPL. I'll just come to Mickey, if you could just bear my patience a little longer, because I'm trying to think if Pant's 2 underwhelming IPLs also in play here, where Dinesh Karthik set the stage on fire for RCB, whether if Pant would have had the kind of IPL that Hardik Pandya with bat had, or that DK had, that he would have put himself in a position that makes him almost like Surya, undroppable. But that's not happened.
Yeah, that hasn't happened because you also have to consider the fact that he's leading, right? And he's a young guy. He's 24, 23, 24. So you need to give him that time to kind of fill those shoes up a bit as well. And there's no better place to fill into those shoes and become yourself than the IPL. So I'm certain in time to come he's going to be our go-to guy as far as finishing is concerned, and he'll be a left-hander in the mix.
Yes.
That satisfies you.
Yeah, I just go by what all of them, whatever he throws at me. Right, no, but I like that. Okay, Mickey Yadav's been very patient. He had a solution to this Pant DK problem on our preview yesterday. He said play both of them and leave one of Virat or Suryakumar Yadav out. Mickey, you're not getting a call up for the Indian job anytime soon, I'll tell you that. But all jokes aside, tell me the rationale behind why they would have picked Dinesh Karthik, and whether you think there still would have been a case for Rishabh Pant just on what he offers to give this team better balance. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I still think there would have been a case for Rishabh Pant, particularly a left-hander. I think Rishabh Pant can bat anywhere in the order, and we know that he's a fantastic cricketer. I think Dinesh Karthik has made a wonderful case for himself. I thought he was outstanding in the IPL. The way he finished games for Royal Challengers Bangalore was amazing. And as I mentioned yesterday, we did play India before they played England, and Dinesh finished unbelievably well in that game as well. He's a mature head at the back end in a run chase, and you can't. That is just gold. So he's worth his weight in gold. I think what gets clouded a little bit is the wicket keeping. Now, I haven't seen enough of Dinesh to be able to give a massive call in terms of wicket keeping. What I do know is that the ball doesn't get to the keeper that often in 2020 cricket. But when you play a guy like Chahal and when you've got Ravinder Jadeja in conditions like the UAE, you have to be able to force a dismissal with stumping. So you need a guy that's classy behind the stumps as well. Now, as I say, I can't comment too much on Dinesh behind the stumps because I haven't seen enough of him. But I do know that Rishabh is very, very good in that position.
Okay, let's go to Robbie straight away. But that's a good point you make. Sometimes we forget the keeping credentials here. Can you pick one over the two right now, who the better keeper is? And does it matter?
Well, see, I agree with Mickey when he says that in T20 cricket you don't get a lot of balls, and I know that from experience.
Yes.
You know, behind the stumps you get a few and far in between. So as much as it's important, I think both these keepers are even Stevens. I think both are really, really good keepers, exceptional at what they do, and they work really hard at that skill. So, and Rishabh is someone who's improved exponentially at this skill over the last few years, and we've seen a massive improvement in him as a keeper compared to where he began. You know, so for me, I feel like as far as wicket keeping is concerned, I think both are even Stevens.
Okay, fair enough. Plenty to discuss as we go further, but we have to cover a lot of other things too. That was the Pant v DK chat, and now there's going to be you'd almost think now that everyone's going to watch DK with an even bigger microscope or scanner, because all this while he wasn't sort of keeping any of the big names out necessarily. Now India are giving us an idea of what they feel their strongest T20 side is, given everyone is fit and available. Let's have a look at the Pakistan 11 before we move to some more talking points out of this big clash. And they have to make do without what would be an ideal 11 after Shaheen Shah Afridi had to pull out. As we just run through that list, though, Babar Azam, Rizwan, Fakhar Zaman is the solid top three. That's been the bedrock of their T20 success over the years. Mickey Arthur took them to the number one rankings when he was at the helm of affairs in Pakistan cricket. And then you've got Kushnil Shah who gets the nod. Asif Ali's got a big role to play. Shadab Khan, Mohammad Nawaz. So that's two spinners that will take the ball away from six right-hand batsmen in India's side. And Haris Rav, Naseem Shah with a debut along with Shahnawaz Dahani. Mickey, is that Pakistan's best 11 from the squad that they've picked? Any surprises at all?
Yeah, I'm surprised Iftikhar is playing. I thought they could have gone with Haider Ali. I thought another young, dynamic batsman. I think the middle order is untried. Asif Ali is a really, really good finisher, and I'm glad he's got to go. But I think you'll see Shadab slip into that top five at some point, particularly in overs 7 to 15. Shadab will hit pockets, he'll run hard, he'll be their sort of glue, I think, through the middle. And then you finish with a guy like Mohammad Nawaz as well. So there is depth in their batting, but I still get, I think, 4, 5 and 6 a little bit untried. So there's a lot of pressure on Rizwan, Babar and Fakhar Zaman.
Tell me what's tilted perhaps the favourite for Iftikhar Ahmed ahead of Haider Ali from what you've seen, Mickey?
To be honest, I think perhaps Iftikhar offers a little bit with the ball. He bowls some nice off spin, so he gives you another option. In the field, I'd say Haider Ali is a little bit better. Haider Ali's had opportunity though, and he hasn't really grabbed it. He's still very much a promising player without becoming a full international player yet. But at some point, they're going to have to give him that opportunity to develop and grow, because I think he is going to be a very good player down the line.
So just bring up that lineup for you again, Robbie. Does it seem just very different aside from the team that created history for Pakistan, beating India at the last World Cup. They've obviously moved on from Mohammad Hafiz, Shoaib Malik have quit the game, and you've got Shaheen Afridi missing. Suddenly, does this not look as intimidating, a Pakistan 11?
No, I think these, as in, whatever little of the PSL I did watch, some of these guys have really performed exceptionally well there. So for me, they still have the experience of someone like Asif Ali down there. I think Shadab Khan's their best player is spin bowling for them. So I agree with Mickey that he will come up the order between the 7th and the 14th over to push the ante up a little bit. But I think their bedrock is Rizwan and Babar at the top, and a lot is going to revolve around them. And they have been dangerous, and to get one of them out early is going to be crucial for India. And I pegged Bhuvi to do that for us.
All right. You watch everything like Mickey Arthur does. Now make sense of that Pakistan team, and any other surprises other than Shadab with the bat early on that we can expect?
First of all, for Shadab to come early, the two openers have to get out, and they don't get out. They've batted 72% of the balls since the last World Cup. 72% for two people to bat that's ridiculous. So it's very, very high. So it's very important that Babar and Rizwan kind of continue doing that. Remember, they're batting first. This is where I think it's a true test for Pakistan. They've been amazing chasers. When there's a target, these two are really good. But when it comes to batting first, they're not able to gauge what that pass score is. It's very hard. That's where some teams are really good and some teams are not. So Babar and Rizwan need to kind of, yes, the dependency is there. I think they have to bat through at least for the first 10 overs to allow the hitters to come and play their role. If they get out early, then that's when Shadab comes in. But I don't think that will happen if these two continue to bat, because you have three really good hitters in Fakhar, Iftikhar and Asif Ali. So for Pakistan's sake, they need to make sure that these two bat out the power play. And they would have seen yesterday a lot of swing. Bhuvi does that really well. So they play him out for the first 2 overs, which is what I think you will see. And then it'll be very interesting to see if Pakistan can go in excess of 180. That is not something which comes naturally to them. However well Babar and Rizwan play, they end up with a 160 to 180 score.
Okay, and we're just reminding you that it's the same surface that Sri Lanka and Afghanistan played on yesterday, where you saw Fazal Farooqi ask serious questions of Sri Lanka's top order. Now, 72% is an extraordinary number for these two. Mickey, you know Babar Azam better than anyone, Rizwan as well. I'm not sure how much we can break down how effective they are batting first versus batting second, but we do know from memory at least that they, like Gaurav says, are a different beast when they're chasing. Do things change when they're batting first? There's always this chat of who's going to be the aggressor or the enforcer. It's now an inexperienced middle order. You know the guys well. Are they going to, what can we expect of them now batting first in a big game like this?
Yeah, look, that's a very good point, because when you chase, you kind of know how the tempo of your innings. You know how to set your innings up. Batting first is going to challenge them, I think, just a little bit in terms of the tempo that they bat at. And that's why batting first, I might have been tempted to throw Fakhar Zaman in at the top of the order, because he gives you something different, scores in different places. I think with Babar and Rizwan, you get a little bit of the same. And I understand that they've been very, very good together and they've batted incredibly well together, but it's conventional batting. They keep the ball on the ground, they'll hit gaps, and that gives them their boundaries. But I do think with a Fakhar Zaman in the mix, it allows something different, particularly batting first, where you've got to set the tempo of the game. So that's something I think that will challenge them just a little bit.
We'll find the answer to that in about 6 minutes' time when we see the openers, given Pakistan are batting first. But given, I'm trying to think of how much time India would have spent on Rizwan and Babar. Because even though they lost that game, still 160 odd to get, and Rizwan and Babar gave them no quarter. Would you do it just for the sake of surprising India, Mickey, today? Amongst other things, you know the opposition is going to spend so much time on those two, let's just change it up. Would you be tempted for something like that on a big day like this?
Yeah, look, it kind of depends where you feel your players are at any given time. So as a coach, you'd have a feel for exactly how your players were operating and at what stage of form they were in at any given time. So without being there, I'm not sure. I don't think they will change it up. I think they will go with the tried and tested and then use Fakhar Zaman. You see, the thing with Fakhar, and the thing that I always found with Fakhar was Fakhar's innings changed when he got to over 7. He was very effective in the power play overs, and that's where he played his best. So having him come in outside the power play overs is slightly foreign to him, and with the field back, it restricts his hitting areas. So I would have been tempted to do that. But again, you need to know where your players are in terms of their form.
All right. Now, let's spend a few minutes giving the spotlight to Gaurav Sundararaman. Now, India are not batting first here, but one of the challenges they did have in those key games at the World Cup was how to dominate spin when it was presented to them in these key games. We saw what Ish Sodhi and Mitch Santner did against New Zealand. Pakistan, of course, were at the back of Shaheen Afridi's blistering opening spell, but Shadab Khan also came and applied the brakes. So, GS, this is for you to bring out something interesting that you've noticed and a big question for the Indian side. Go for it.
Yeah, it's not just the whole team. If you look at the individual players who are batting for India in the top 7 over the last 2 years in all T20s, that includes the IPL. It's a very interesting graphic. Basically, you see the likes of Surya Kumar Yadav. He's miles ahead of the others with respect to playing spin.
I mean, taking on spin.
Yeah, in terms of taking on spin, very aggressive, has a very high strike rate. But when you look at everybody else around him, including the likes of Kohli, Rohit and Rahul, you'll see their strike rates are all very low and the averages are slightly high. That's because they don't get out, but they don't really get ahead of they don't dominate the spinner. So what happens is that they sometimes add pressure to the team and they get bogged down. The partners get bogged down. This is a trend which has happened across 3 IPL. So it's not something which is a recent trend. It may come up to whether the ability to attack spin early on. So then I looked at a slightly deeper stat. How do they start against spin? Whether they are people who can come in and hit sixes from ball 1. But if you look at those numbers against spin, Rohit's 106, Rahul's 110, Kohli's 96, Pant is 105, Hardik is 109, Jadeja is 59, Karthik is 109. So all of them are just less than 110 except Surya. So I think a lot of teams should try to bowl more spin to India. I feel that that's a strategy which they can use because it's 3 years numbers, Raunak, and it's not just something only international. It includes IPLs, which means it could become over 2-3 years. The numbers start kind of telling you the skill part of the player as well. If it's just 1 year, I don't even look at it because the sample sizes are low. This is 3 years, so nothing has improved. So I wonder if teams can attack with spin.
Okay, I can see a point increasing with Robbie.
Giving away a lot of secrets, man.
Nowadays, these are open secrets. Let's be honest.
I'm like, what is this?
If we know it, I'm sure pretty much every international team's got it. But to just remind you, there are a lot of numbers that are coming on your screen. It's a very simple point that GS has beautifully put out, that India's batters do not necessarily take a lot of risk against spin when they start off in 2020 cricket. They may not get out, so the numbers may not suggest that they have a weakness against spin in terms of wickets, but they do not dominate, the exception being Surya Kumar Yadav. And we can remember games that almost translate into this theory that we've given you, where India failed to get big starts or put the pressure from the get-go, find themselves behind the 8 ball. Robin Uthappa, merit in it, and will we see it change now that this new setup and new leadership group has indicated to us that they are committed to a different style of 2020?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that India need to take heed of and then work on it. As in, there is room for improvement in one aspect or the other, and this is clearly one. And I think it's something that they have to kind of work on and figure out. And Surya someone will bat at number 3 or 4 essentially, and so he'll play a big part in changing that whole system up there. So here's hoping that for Gaurav's sake, we change that very, very quickly.
I must ask you though, let's say someone tells you that, right now you've been a T20 veteran from the time the format started off to the way it's evolved and changed now. Somebody suddenly tells you, look, you've got to start taking on spin, but you've got a different method of success in 2020 cricket. Is it as simple to say, fine, now I'll just take on the spinner first up?
No, you can. You can define certain roles for certain players. Again, it's a very personal thing that you take a call on the field, right? Especially when partnerships are going on. Then one of the partners take on the spinners, the other one rotates the strike. That call's taken on the field. And then if a new batsman comes in, then the senior pro the senior batter in that partnership who's still at the wicket hangs on, and then the new guy possibly goes after it, or it quietens down for a certain period of time. So I think those aspects are calls you take on the field, but they can specify. So I've gone into teams where they've told me if a spinner comes on, you go there and take it on to them. Say, for example, the IPL final in 2021. My job was to go out there and take pressure off Faf and take the attack to the spinners, to Nareen and Shakib and the rest, and Varun Chakravarti, and that was my role. And I went there and took pressure off Faf. So you can get guys to play that role. It just needs to be defined to them.
Mickey, easy to define this role to players who've been around 10, 15 years, superstars and whatnot, or is that not as easy when you actually have to deal with the individuals?
No. I think it is easy as long as you give a player a defined role. The player knows exactly what the boundaries are and how he can play. It was very interesting listening to Robbie talk there, because I actually watched that final, and the way he came in, he did take that pressure off. The thing for me though is with Pakistan is that the guys in the middle order are very young and inexperienced. So you got a Shadab or somebody like that, the only guys that have a little bit of experience in trying to take that pressure off. It's going to be interesting to see how India play it, because Pakistan in the UAE, we always had a brand that we tried to play, and that brand was to suffocate with spin, particularly and strike with spin, particularly through overs 7 to 15 or 16. So you'll expect to see Shadab, expect to see Mohammad Nawaz, and perhaps that's why a guy like Iftikhar got the nod, in that he can bowl some spin as well. Because let's not kid ourselves. The Pakistan seam attack for this game is very, very young and inexperienced as well.
I think it's
all right. Just as Mickey Arthur was making that point, it looks like India have drawn first blood in this game. Bhuvneshwar Kumar has struck. Robin Uthappa said about 9 minutes back on the show he's expecting Bhuvi to knock one of those two guys who've batted for 72% of Pakistan's time in recent times. There's probably a review coming, you'd think. So we'll just hold on. But we have the liberty of actually carrying on in a conversation with this. I'll come back to the wicket in a second. Let it all just settle down, if it is indeed a wicket. But from Mickey's point, you see this as something that now teams will target India with lots of spin.
Sure. Yeah, without an iota of a doubt.
Okay.
I think
then the question I have is, would you advise somebody like Virat Kohli, with everything that's been said to him, let's say you're put in that position, you know you want Kohli back in form. So Kohli technically should be told, take some time. Is that okay? Or no? Doesn't matter. We've committed to a new approach now. Now you have to take them on.
I think they'll just let him go and say, do what you want to do.
Do what you want.
Because we have sky behind you, so just play the way you want to play. And I think that's the way you should approach it as well. And Mickey was stating a point a little earlier, and that this review just comes back to me. I think Pakistan have missed a trick here. They could have separated these two batters, because these are the most experienced batters in the Pakistan lineup. And at least when they're batting first, they could have separated them and got Fakhar Zaman at the opening position, which would have given them that left-right combination as well. They might have just missed a trick here.
All right, I'm going to wait about 10 seconds and then go to Mickey Arthur as well. As it turns out, yes, that first wicket has not fallen. So we'll go back to Mickey Arthur over here. I wonder if an early LBW review is sometimes a good thing in a big game. Maybe just resets the mind, perhaps, Mickey? Pakistan live on for now, or rather Rizwan lives on for now?
Yeah, look, I think the key for Rizwan and Baba is getting those feet moving as soon as they can. We saw swing last night. We know Bhuvi's going to swing the ball. They've got to get those feet moving as soon as they can. And once they get one or two out of the screws, they'll settle. Because it's a big, big game for these two. These two know that they're the guys that have to drive the Pakistan total on.
All right. Well, this conversation against spin for India batters is fascinating. It perhaps serves itself better when India have to set the total batting first. Today they have the privilege of knowing what they'll have to chase. So let's get into that. First over is already underway. There's already some action. Expect a cracking game whenever these two sides come together. So let's ask our panel for what they think would be Pakistan's first inning score. Let's go to Mickey Arthur first up. Sri Lanka went perhaps a bit too hard too soon last night. Mickey, on the same surface, and obviously it cost them. 105 is all they managed. What do you think Pakistan will get?
I think Pakistan will get between 170 and 180 if they play very well. And I think that's what they'll be trying to target to give their bowlers an opportunity to defend it.
All right, 170 to 180. That's a pretty good score in these parts of the world, GS.
Yeah, I think Indian bowlers will have a very solid attack, so I don't think it's going to be that easy. I would look at 140 to 150.
Okay, we got 170, 180. We got 140, 150.
I'd say 150, 160.
Oh, come on.
Because I'll tell you why. As in, when you look at the scores that have happened in this ground and the history of the last couple of years, the average score has been between, at least in the last year or so. Last year during the World Cup on used wickets was about 130. You know that the wickets are fresh this time, so you add another 30 runs to that. So I think anywhere between 150, 160 would be a competitive total.
All right, awesome. So we're covered from 140 to 180.
So what
you know what I did yesterday? Yeah, I said I'll either go 88 all out or I'll go 190. And I was closer with my 88 all out, but I didn't give that as my prediction. So why don't I give it today then?
Yes, please.
No, I would love for at least a good game. But let's throw spanner. Let's go 120. Let's say India's bowlers really have a big say here. And now we've got ourselves covered from 120 to 180. Anyway, it's their opinion that counts, not mine. Robin Uthappa, this was a fun first 30 minutes.
Yes,
and we hope to have the conversation going at halftime. Thank you very much. GS, you too. Mickey, we will see you in at the end of 20 overs as well. So look forward to your company on Qatar Airways Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timer to see how many Pakistan had eventually got. Join us then.